Hello, 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 and welcome to another live coaching. I am destroyed. We've had a very busy weekend. Our last weekend in Germany, doing a lot of different things, school things with the kids, family things, all of the above. So it's been nonstop for me. So this is going to be a quicker live stream. I'm heading to Hawaii next week, Saturday. Looking forward to being back. So next time you see me, I will be on the other side of the world. I will be on the other side of the world, back on Maui. But for the moment, I'm still in Germany, and we're going to go through this live stream on the quicker side because I got to get to bed. All right, let's load up the Facebook group. Hello, Dom Dom. Hope you're good. All right, we got Jorg as well. Oh, Jorg got a cold. Sorry to hear that, buddy. Yeah, this is time of year where it's going around. Hope you get better. Hope you get better. Meanwhile, Matt has been out on a 3-4. Awesome possum. Storm, how do you say that? Dara or Darag? Dara, I guess. Awesome. All right, like I said, I'm going to run through this because I'm tired. It's been a long weekend. Those of you with kids know how this is. We had a school function. My son is in first grade, and his school here had a festival, Christmas festival thing on Saturday, where the parents, first of all, have to do some work for it, and then second of all, it's just a full day with the kids there running around. They love it, but it's definitely a lot. And then big 40th birthday party of a friend of ours that night, and then rolling into all of the family stuff. Because we're going to be in Hawaii, my wife organized with her family and friends a bunch of things today so we can see everyone for the holidays before we leave. So it's been a full weekend on my side. Hopefully everyone else is having a little bit more rest this time of year, or at least spreading it out. We got Suna, no wind, but Suna's had a good. Christoph says no wind, but a 7.0 earthquake and a tsunami warning. Oh, that's gnarly. I didn't hear about that. All right, first up in the Facebook group, we've got a post from me about your toes and feet. So these are not my toes. Spoiler alert. These are not my toes. I don't know whose toes these are. I just pulled this picture off the internet because I thought maybe it'd be weird to post a picture of my toes. I actually took a picture of my toes, and then I thought, why don't I just take some picture of random toes? Why are toes? Why do they have such a, I don't know, thing about them? Anyway, random toes seemed a bit better for posting than my own toes. And it's something I think we don't think about a lot. And I noticed it when I was on Maui in October when I was doing a lot of work in shoes and standing and I was doing construction work on my property in Hawaii. And I noticed that my performance windsurfing was a lot worse. I tweaked my ankle, which still hurts me a little bit. And my solution for that was that I'd have to do maybe 10 minutes of foot warm up after working in the shoes. And then if I had the opportunity, depending on what we were doing, I would work with not either barefoot or in my Birkenstocks and not in shoes. Now, I mentioned that on a previous live stream, and someone who works in construction heard that and was like, "Oh my God, you should never do that." But I think it's if you're not dealing with carrying heavy things, and depends what the job site is like, right? Then it can be fine. But I really noticed a big difference, really a big difference between going from 8 hours on my feet wearing shoes straight on a board to compared to doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes of foot warm up. And what does that mean? It means spreading the toes, massaging my feet, making sure that I've got that sensitivity in the foot. And it really made me realize how important this is. And I know I already talked about this on one of the past live streams, but I want to bring it back specifically talking about the toes, because a lot of us are wearing shoes. A lot of us have toes that are really pushed together, and doing foot therapy or doing toe therapy, doing foot exercises, foot warm ups, even if it's just tiny bit. I did a bit of foot therapy coming back from one of my injuries, one of my knee injuries, and I was doing arch work where so if you've ever done an in-person masterclass with me, I'm a fan of the bands and we do a lot of band work. And so taking one of those bands and you hold it under the big joint of your big toe under tension, the tension is going inside, and then you do different exercises to train your arch strength. So there are exercises you can do to strengthen your awareness, because a lot of this is more neuromuscular than actually just building muscles. It's more like building the awareness and using your whole foot in all the ways that it's designed to work. And the point that I'm trying to get to is that it can have a big effect on your windsurfing, because then you're just using your feet more effectively. And so I'm curious what people say. We got Chris, who's a very good windsurfer himself and loves walking around barefoot. Walking around barefoot is also what you want to do if you want to stop wearing booties, or maybe you're used to wearing boots, but you're going on holiday to Tenerife and you don't want to wear boots there, but then your feet are really soft. How do you get your feet ready for barefoot windsurfing? Walk around barefoot. Mario's been experimenting with barefoot shoes. Dontavius as well, seems like it. Nicholas said he did it and broke his toes. Ouch. Vouter also is doing a lot on this subject. Dom Dom says that the split toe boots are really important. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. I've only used split toe boots. I've never used the full boots. And I even go barefoot in cold water. It takes a lot for me to wear boots. Um, yeah, interesting. Claudia also has experience. This is all super interesting. Um, yeah. So if you've got experience with your feet, I'd love to hear it. Love to hear it. We got a few people who showed up in the chat. We got Ragnar. Ice surf season has started. Sounds ominous. Ragnar, I love the ice surfing videos that you put and show me and post. It's just so cool. It's something that I really want to try. Looks scary, fast, cool, different. Hello, Mark. Hope it gets less lame. All right, we've got some comments here. So Jorg mentions that Campello just did a post reviewing sales from his summer in Pozo. And have I done that? Yes, I've tested a lot of different sales. I don't always test all sales every year, but I'll get on Friends Gear, and some years I'll make an effort and go to like the TWS, the test center in Tenerife, and try a bunch of gear. And I think that that's really interesting. And same goes for trying boards. I'm more interested in custom boards though, so I'm not trying like all the production boards, but maybe I'll try my friend's board, jump on Levi's board, or someone who's similar size to me, and that's really interesting. Really interesting. We got a question from Phil, and he says that he loves the learning process and improving on new moves, but he seems to be stuck and not getting better. So he wants to learn the Taka or the Vulcan, and it's totally wave spot sailing day. He ends up doing the same sailing, and he needs help finding an action plan. He worries that he's being fussy. This is a really common issue, and it's something we get into in the in-person master classes. And one of the courses that I'm working on is a mindset masterclass, an online one, and it will go into some of this. And a lot of you guys in the chat, almost everyone in the chat, has been on a in-person masterclass with me, and you know that I get into stuff like this. And having a strategy for learning a new move, super important. If you're learning the Taka, Vulcan, forward, whatever it is, you want to have a path, walk that path, have a plan, clearly defined plan. And then Each move is gonna have its own plan, because I like to break moves down. I like to have exercises for the moves. So that's going to be different for each move. Some things that are similar for every move is you want to work in time blocks. So this sounds like it will help Phil. And I've talked about this a lot. It's something that comes up in every single one of my courses. I've talked about on the live stream. So I'm not going to get into it super in depth here. Really, this comes up in every single course that I do because it's so important. And that is that you don't want whatever move you're working on to bleed into the whole session. Instead, you choose a time. Maybe it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but not too long. You don't want to go an hour. Somewhere 20 minutes, 30 minutes is a pretty good amount of time. It could be even less. It could be 10 minutes, depends how much you can focus and how difficult it is to focus on that move during that time. You do it at the beginning of your session. You set your watch. So you need to have a watch. And all you do is focus on that one move for that time period. You don't ride waves, you don't do other jumps, you don't do anything else. You just focus on that one move. So if you're learning Vulcans, you're just doing Vulcans for 10 minutes. You're not riding waves, you're not doing your normal day. You can't. All you can do is Vulcans. And then the timer goes off, beep, beep, beep. You do your normal session. Have fun. And if you don't do time block learning, they all bleed together. It all gets mixed up. You're frustrated at the end of the day, even though you had a fun session because you didn't work on any Vulcans, or you're working on Vulcans, but you're thinking about going and riding waves. No, separate them. Have a dedicated time block, and that forces you to do it, to commit to it. And then if you have a bad session, so what? You had a bad 10 minutes, 15-minute time block. Just go have fun. You did your work. You put in the time. And this will lead to quicker results and more fun than that, oh, I just need to train Vulcans, or oh, I just need to train Takas or forwards or whatever it is. Time blocks, total game changer. Once you get to a certain consistency in a move, once you're over the hump, then you don't need to implement the time blocks as much. You can just do the move when you see a moment for it. But when you're at the beginning stage of learning those moves, time blocks. We got a question from Johan. How do you train for a back loop landing? Great question. Back loop landings are incredibly difficult. The back loop landing is one of the most difficult moves to learn. But what I think is really helpful, I'll tell you something, and then I'm going to kind of do a judo move and say something else. But what I think is really helpful in the back loop landing is remembering that you're not trying to do a 360. The back loop's more like a 180. So you're going way downwind. There's some pictures I've posted in the group before showing the back loop landings and how downwind you're actually landing. It's crazy how downwind you're actually going. And the second thing is you want to land on the nose, really, really on the nose of the board. So you're not trying to land flat. You're really not trying to land flat. Here, there's a photo. I've got a couple photos that I can put in. Let me see if I can I upload this to, let me see if I can upload this to the live stream. All right, let me see if I can get this on there. Okay. I can only share video files. So what I'm gonna do is put it in the comments on the Facebook page. Let's see. See if I can do this. Comment with a photo. Show all files. All right. It's coming, don't worry. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I just had the picture. I just found a perfect picture showing exactly what I was trying to say. Here's one that kind of shows it. So thank you guys for bearing with me. This is going to pop up here. So I get uploaded. So this one is coming down. You can see how far on the nose I'm landing. There's one other picture as well that I want to post. That it's this one. Let's see if that works. Might work, might not work. There we go. So here you can see a few examples of just how on the nose you want to land. So again, you're landing really downwind and really on the nose. Like this is the back loop landing. So you're not trying to land on the tail. The other thing about the landing is that there's a feeling of pushing the gear forward. So you're pushing the boom towards the nose of the board. It's kind of like this windshield wiper movement with the hands. And I think of it like getting in this like sailing really, really downwind position, which you can kind of see here in this landing. But the judo move, what I want to say is that the landing is a lot easier if you get a good setup. And that good setup comes from taking off upwind, getting height, going straight up at the apex, looking over that shoulder, steering it down gently. And if you get that setup right, then the landing is a lot easier. So a lot of times, if you're messing up the landing and it feels like, oh, I've got the rotation, but I'm just not landing it, the problem is actually probably the beginning. And if you fix the beginning, the landing is going to be a lot easier. It's one of those things that is a little confusing, but if you fix the beginning often, then the landing just starts to work. Suna says, why isn't it possible to buy a 2025 production board in Europe until April or May? That's a really good question. I'm not really sure. And I wasn't aware that there was such a gap because normally you can buy a next year's board in September the year before or October the year before. Why is it now so delayed? 2024 was a really bad year for windsurfing, one of the worst gear sale years ever, maybe the worst year ever. And that really affected a lot of companies. And so some of these companies are really struggling, maybe struggling with cash flow, struggling with inventory, and they've got to clear out the inventory they have before they can bring in new inventory. So my guess is it has to do with that. With Ezzy sales, which is my main connection to the industry, it's a different situation because we own our own manufacturing. At the moment, we're one of the only companies that does own our own manufacturing. Like, I don't think any of the big board companies own their own manufacturing because most of it's all Cobra. And from sale companies, I think the only other sale company that owns their manufacturing is Gastra. So we're not trying to slot into a manufacturer's schedule. So it's just a different deal. But with a lot of these other companies, they had a really bad year. They're trying to slot into a production schedule with the factory that's making the gear. They've got to come up with their commitment way in advance, 6 months in advance, maybe. And yeah, so the gear is delayed. That's why, is my guess. All right, we got Murat introducing himself. And wow, welcome to the group. These are some old photos. I want to know what the story is. What's the story behind these photos? What's the story behind these photos? All right. Next up, we got Remco. We got a few people introducing themselves. I love it. With a back loop in, this looks like Cape Town. I love Cape Town. Cape Town is a lot of fun for windsurfing. It's choppy, it's funky, but it's fun. It's really fun. All right, we got a question from Dom Dom who says he's looking for a solution to repair a corrupted GoPro file. So he had tried it on his iMac and the GoPro app from his phone, and following the crash, he noticed that he could not stop the recording. He tried several times with the button, and then he tried the off and on button, and he had to wait until the battery died. Ugh. Okay, so his takeaways are: don't let the cam shoot the full session without stopping. Have a clean memory card for each session, formatting before each session. Don't try to read a file while transferring it to your computer. Yeah, this is tough. I don't have experience with this. This is my nightmare. My nightmare with external hard drives. I've got so many external hard drives. Like, I've got them all over my desk. I've got, like, I was using these little SanDisk because they're super practical, easy, fast. And then I was reading that they fail. And so then I bought all these other ones, and then I'm in the process of transferring the footage to them, and meanwhile using them. So I got these, like, some of the lacy ones. I got some of these Samsungs. I mean, my desk is full of these hard drives because I have so much footage of myself, of the different coaching clinics, the master classes, and like some of these, like, this is a backup, and it's a nightmare. This is my nightmare that one of these is going to fail, and so I'm trying to set up with backups and systems that make it so that if there's a failure, it's not catastrophic for me because I've got so much footage from so many different sessions from all over the world. This is a tricky thing. I don't have a lot of experience with a solution. Hopefully some people do in the comments. It seems like Rich did it once. Roman has some advice as well. It looks like there's a few people with some advice. Okay, but DomDom has a solution. Amazing. So Andre, the trick was with Stellar Info to record another long enough video with the same format on the same device as a correct reference. He started with a 1-second video, it did not work, then 2 minutes. That's amazing. Cool. So it worked. Super cool. So here's the explanation from Andre. That's so cool. I'm happy that it worked. There's nothing like the stomach pain of losing a session. Yeah, cool. All right. This is something we already talked about last week when we were talking about flockas. I wonder if we've got some new comments here. Let's see newest comments. Is there new comments? Speed, commitment, sail movement. Thomas Davies has some suggestions. Learn in a little more wind. You want planing conditions. Yeah, I think that's right. I think with the flocka for learning, you do want to be planing. You don't want it to be super light because you want to get ahead of the wind. You don't want the wind to be so full in the sail. You want to be able to kind of move past the wind. Also, the faster you're going, this is something that's relevant for Shovets too. It's come up in the Shovets course. It's super cool. I've been sort of standing back from the conversation and looking at what people are talking about in the WhatsApp group for Shovets and figuring out how the apparent wind factors in. And so if you think about it, what if you are sailing straight, the wind that's affecting you is different than the true wind. Now, how can that be, you might be saying? Well, the wind that is affecting you in your sail is a combination of the true wind and the apparent wind. So what is apparent wind? Apparent wind is the wind that you make. So if you're driving in a car, you stick your hand out the window, say you're driving 60 kilometers an hour and you feel 60 kilometers per hour wind against your hand, that's apparent wind. It's the wind that you make. And so if you're driving that car 60 kilometers an hour and you stick a little wing out the sail or a little kite, it will fly because you're creating that wind, right? The wind that's created by your motion. That's the apparent wind. Now, if there's real wind blowing, the wind that you feel is going to be a combination between the apparent wind and the real wind. The faster you're going, the more the apparent wind, or just the bigger the apparent wind is. So then when you're trying to average those, the bigger that is in the equation, right? And that apparent wind is always coming straight at you. So if you've ever been towed in, which I don't know how many of you guys have been towed in, but then the wind is coming straight at your face because there's almost no real wind. And so you get backwinded immediately just sailing straight because it's all apparent wind. And so it's easier to get backwinded the faster you're going. And for doing moves like shove-its and flockas, you want to get backwinded or through the eye of the wind. Shove-its, you're not getting through the eye of the wind, you're just getting backwinded. But with flockas, you're getting through the eye of the wind. And so the more the apparent wind is a factor in like the less the true wind is a factor in the wind that you're feeling, then the less you need to turn to go through the eye of the wind. It's late. I don't know if I said that super clearly. Basically, what it boils down to, if you go faster, the wind is more straight on compared to the true wind direction. There's a lot of nuances to this as well because there's a wind gradient on the water, all kinds of things. But faster you go, changes the relative wind to your sail. And if you go faster, make some things easier, like flockas and shove-its. All right, guys, that is the end of the posts. I'm going to call it, like I said, I've had a full weekend. I need a weekend for my weekend, but I've got to wake up tomorrow, get the kids to school. Last week in Europe, packing up, getting stuff ready. So the next time you see me I will be in Hawaii. And I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to bed. So I'm going to call it a night, and I'll see you next week, Sunday. I hope you have a windy week if it's not too cold. And if it is too cold, watch some windsurfing. There's so many good windsurfing videos on YouTube. I would love, let's make a thread. I'll make a thread. I'll do it in the Facebook group right after this. What is your favorite YouTube windsurfing video? I'll start. I'll dig up one that is my favorite. Actually, it's not my favorite. Why am I saying that? I don't have a favorite. There's so many that I love. But I'll just throw one of mine in, one of my favorites in, and I would love to hear what you guys love to watch. And that will be a great reference to that. So I'm going to do that right now, this second. So if you have one top of mind, post it in the Facebook group under my post right now. Otherwise, if something comes to mind in the next few days, share it then. All right, guys, I'm going to get to it, and I'm going to make that Facebook post and then get to bed. Good night.